Welcome to the third video in this tutorial series on building a MySQLi user registration system brought to you by simpletut.com. And today is a continuation of our previous tutorials, and we're going to be building the update account pages, which will basically enable the users to update their information. So just to give you a reminder of what we've done so far, is we created the initial template for the registration system. So we designed the layout with HTML and CSS. Following that, we created our first form, our register form, which includes proper validation. And what we actually did was we used PHP to manipulate that information, capture that data, and store users' information and register them in your database. Once we did that, we created the login page where we have the login form, of course, and basically we allow you to log users in. So just to give you a quick demonstration, we have an account registered already, and if I just quickly log in, you'll see that we're being redirected to our account page, which has restricted access. So only users with the correct privileges will be able to log in and access this page. We also created a logout page, which of course logs users out, which is very important, of course, for security reasons. Now in this video today, we're going to be creating our update page, our page that will enable users to update their account information. And that's going to basically use a combination of code that we've written and some new code. But as I said previously, we're using MySQLi. So for example, if we look at the registration page, we're writing our queries, and we're doing it with code. So it's pretty self-explanatory what this tutorial will entail. So let's go ahead and continue. So as we have done in previous tutorials, I'm going to be duplicating our template file. I'm just going to call this update account. Now before we get started, I'd just like to remind you that if you are new to this series and you'd like to start from the beginning and build your MySQLi registration system, then please refer to the description of this video or visit our official YouTube channel, which is SimpleTut, and you will be able to find direct links or the playlist on our channel to all the videos in this series, where we built the registration pages, logout account, logout, login pages, and follow along, and then return to this video when you're ready to proceed with creating your update page. So just getting back to it, I'm just going to change the title of the page to update account, and we can save that. And now I'm going to be creating the form, of course, in my right body div. Now if you did follow with our previous videos, we created the classes for the text field, the buttons, and the form elements. So all I need to do, so it's really quick, so all I need to do is I'm just going to insert my form, and then within my form I'm going to insert the divs I need. So I'm going to create my first div, give it the class we created, form element. So as you can see, within this we can insert the fields we want. So for the update page, you basically want to enable them to update any information that they've registered with you. So in this tutorial we created several fields. We created a first name, last name, email, and password fields. So in the on the update page we want the same. So we're going to create the same number of divs. So we have first name, last name, email, password, and then of course our form button. So let's just go ahead and insert that. We're going to have a text field for our first name, last name, email, and of course password, and then we're going to insert our submit button. So let's just go ahead and remove these labels. We're going to grab hold of this. Now I'm just going to come to my properties inspector, and in the placeholder for this I'm just going to say first. Actually no, we're not going to have a placeholder for this, but I'm going to give this the name of first name, last name, email, and of course password. And we're going to save that, and then we're going to select required for all of these. What we can do is also style a form button, just as we created the class previously. And if I select the button, I can change the value to update info, or you can give it the value of anything you want. And we're just going to call this update. So let's save that. We can add our class that we created previously to our text fields. Let's save that. Now let's just preview this in Explorer, and you can see what we have. We've just got our update form. So it's pretty simple, but of course this is doing nothing. We need to actually go ahead and manipulate this with PHP. So let's come into code view, and after we've called our connections file, I'm going to open a new pair of opening and closing PHP tags. And what we want to do is, the first thing we want to do is actually restrict access to this page. They should not have access to this page unless they are logged in. So let's go to our account page, code view. This is the code we previously writ that restricts access. So we want to actually add this in. I'm just going to paste this in just above the PHP tags we just created, but just below the connections file. It could probably be first, and that's a good example of how to restrict access to your pages. All you have to do is copy in this code, and that's it. So now we know that the user is going to be logged in. We can start manipulating this further. So what we need to do first is we need to actually find the user that's logged in, and we need to identify that user so we can display the information we have currently stored on our database. Okay, so now that we know that the user has successfully logged in, we need to actually start handling the update form. Now there's kind of two stages to this. The first stage is actually displaying the information that we currently have stored in our database for that user. So that first involves us communicating with the database to display that information. The second stage is allowing the user to make changes to that and then update the database and update their information stored on our server. So let's start off by actually determining what user is logged in, and displaying their information. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to basically create a variable we're going to call user, and that is basically going to equal the user ID session created on login. That tells us the user ID, and that is what we're going to use in our query. The second step is actually to create our query. So I'm just going to say results, and that's going to equal our con variable, which stands for connection. Just to remind you, if we go to our connections file, it's basically quite a long-winded thing to have to write out, MYSQLi, connect, etc. So we just store that in this variable, and it saves us quite a bit of time. So here we're just going to write our query, and our query will be as follows. We're just going to say select from user where user ID equals, and then we're just going to put in our user variable. So here we're just writing a query. As you can see, select from user, user ID. Basically, it's quite simple. And then we need to fetch that data. So I'm just going to create a new variable called row, and we're going to say result fetch array MYSQLi both for numerical. Okay, so once we actually have that, we can start to store this in session start. Once we have fetched that data from the database, we can start storing all of the information we need in session variables. Okay, so the first session that we're going to create is going to be for the user's first name, and that's going to equal the column in the database, which is f name. The second session will be last name, and that's going to equal again row L name, which is the title of the last name column in the database table. The next column will be email, and that's going to equal again row I think it's just email. And finally, it's going to be password. And we'll just call this PW for now. And let's save that. So now we are basically, just to go through this, we're creating the, we're determining the user that's logged in, we're running the query, we're then fetching that data and storing the information we need in session variables that we can call on at a later stage. So let's go ahead and actually do that. So basically in each one of these text fields is the update form, so we need to display the information we currently have. So to do that, I'm just going to select this field, come into my code view, and basically here I'm going to add on the value attribute, and here we can just insert some our PHP. What we want to do is we just want to echo our session. So for example, this is first name, so we want to echo the session. So what we want to do is I'm just going to copy this whole thing here, except this one is going to be last name, and then here for email we'll do the same, but the session is called email, and for password same thing, but the session is called, I think this is called PW, as you can see. So we're creating these sessions here and we're displaying them within the text fields. So if I load this here, this is what you can see. So basically if I launch this in Explorer, okay, so now that I've logged in, of course I have access to the page, and as you can see it's working perfectly. You can see the information, so we have Ashley Brown, Ashley MSN, password, etc. It's loading, it knows what user is logged in, and it's displaying that information. But of course the main purpose of an update page is to allow us to make changes. So for example, I could change this to Ashley, or I could change Ashley, or for example the email I could change to ntlworld.com. But the problem is if I click on update, all that happens is the page refreshes and it just does nothing. It loads the same information, because all we've done in our code is we've basically set it up to show the user's information. We haven't done anything to process and actually update the user. So what is it that we need to do? Well, we need to run a query that will actually process it, that will actually handle updating that user's information dependent on whatever's in this form when the update button is pressed. So that's the next stage. So again, we're going to create some new opening and closing PHP tags, and just to make it look a little prettier, I'm just going to get rid of these spaces. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is actually, because as of right now we have session variables that are set up to display the information that's stored in the database, but we need to create sessions, variables based on the values in these fields when the update button is clicked. Because of course the information may well change. So to do that, the first thing we need to do here is actually only run this code if the form is submitted. So basically we're going to be using if is set, and basically what we're checking is that the form is actually posted. So post, and this is called update. You can see the form button is called update. So once this is actually submitted, the first thing we need to do is create the variables. So the first variable is just going to be called update first name. Okay, and that's going to equal the form. Okay, the form, the data from the form field. So it's post. And I'm going to check, but I think it's cool. It's just called first name. Okay, so we have that. Now I'm going to just copy this out for each one. So we have first name, we have last name, then we have email, and we have I think it's PW. Let me just check. Nope, it's password. So password, email, last name, first name. So here, this is password. So we'll need to change this. So this is now last name, this is email, and this is password. And we're going to be using this in our query. So now we need to run the query now that we have that. So I'm just going to create a new variable. I'm just going to call this SQL, and that's going to equal our query. So again, we're calling our con variable, which is, if you don't remember, it's our connection variable. So we look at our connections file. It's just a short way, a quick way of doing this. So instead of writing out MySQLi connect, etc., we're storing that in a variable called con, stands for connection. And yeah, so we're going to write our query here. So query, and our query will be as follows. It's just going to be update user, and we're going to set, and this is where we need to just reference our table. So if we just pull this up, so if we look in our table, we have first name, L name, email, and password. It's quite easy to remember. But what we need to do is we need to say set, let's say f name, and that will equal, and again we need to put this in an extra pair of curly braces because we're using a variable. Now there's more, so we're going to separate them by a comma, and we're going to say L name equals our update last name variable, and and then of course we have email, which will equal our update email variable, and then we have our password, which will equal our update password variable. So that's what we're updating, but what we now need to specify is we need to say where user ID equals our, up here we specified the user ID into this variable, so we're going to call the same variable. It's going to say user, and that's it. So we can save that. So you can see what we're doing. This is our query. We're just updating the following columns in the database, basically dependent on the values within that were created when the form was submitted. And that's it. So the final thing we need to do is actually, now when it's been successful, we need to redirect them. So I'm going to say header, and we'll say location, and it's basically going to just update account.php. So we're just redirecting them, we're just reloading the same page. So let's launch this in Explorer. And as you can see, we're still logged in, and we're seeing the information. Let's change this to something completely different. Let's say Layla, and let's change this to Layla at hotmail.com. And let's click on update, and there you go, it's updated. So we're just reloading the same page, but if I refresh this, you'll see it's still showing. And if I actually look in the database and I reload this, you'll see it's changed in the database. It says Layla, Brown, etc. So you can see that's how it is working. So that's all you have to do. It's quite a long-winded thing to code. Of course, the first thing you're doing here is you're checking they're logged in. Then you're finding the user that's logged in, and you're finding their information in the database and displaying that within the fields. You're then allowing them to make changes to this data, and when they do, you're then processing it. When the form is submitted, you have to of course create new variables, because obviously the user may have changed the values in these fields to update them. And then once the actual update takes place, we're running our query, and we're updating the columns in the database as to what is contained within these variables, and then finally we're just redirecting them to the same page to display the new information. So it's quite a long-winded thing to code and explain, but it's obviously very effective, and that's how you do it using MYSQLi. Okay, so that's about it for this tutorial, where we obviously created our update page. And this, I believe, was the third video in our series on creating a user registration system using MYSQLi. There's going to be a number of other tutorials coming in this series that will include creating email password functionality, admin access, and various different things. So once again, I'd just like to thank you for following with this video, watching our series, and if you would like to watch any of the other tutorials in this series on creating a MySQLi registration system, then please reference the description of this video or visit our channel on YouTube, our YouTube channel, to actually find a playlist on MySQLi, or simply just search our videos. Thank you very much for following along with this video tutorial. I'd just like to take this opportunity to encourage you to visit our official social network, simpletut.com. There'll be a link in the description of this video, and this is where we post all of our tutorials, and including the series on the MySQLi registration system. Here we have a huge learning resource for you where you can learn new things in building all different types of website applications, including file upload, registration systems, MySQLi tutorials, PHP classes, you know, various different things, from building content management systems to various different kinds of e-commerce tutorials. Now, if you do have a question on this or any other of our tutorials, or perhaps even a question about a project you're doing yourself, then we do have an Ask a Question area on our site where you can post your question, and a member of our team, or perhaps even another user, will get back to you with support. We also have a freebies section and a blog where you can access other kinds of important and easy to use resources. And of course, if you are a fan of our project, then we do have a donate button on the site if you would like to contribute to our project. Of course, it is your support that enables us to continue bringing the free resources and content that you like. You can also access our Facebook page on our official website, and there'll be a link in the description of this video where you can like our page. We've reached over 2,000 likes. We've reached over 2,000 likes, and we continue to grow. But here, if you like our page, of course, we will keep you updated on a regular basis as new tutorials come out, new resources, freebies, and various things like that. As they become available, you will be one of the first to know. And of course, I'd also like to reference something we incorporated into this tutorial, but it really is a fantastic resource for you. But CSS Menu Creator, there'll be a link in the description of this video. You can literally use this to build your menus. So it's an incredibly powerful tool and something you can incorporate into your own projects to save you time. It's a massive time saver. But of course, if you are looking for an easy solution to get online quickly, then please visit our official website, which is siteeasy.com. Again, there'll be a link in the description of this video, and here we offer a range of different applications and pre-built websites, such as our user registration system, CSS menu generator, site search, digital goods for PayPal, comment systems, billing systems, contact forms, and much more. We also offer a range of pre-built websites, including our e-commerce websites, our social network, content management, file upload, property listings, much more. And of course, if you would like to get in touch with us for any matter, if you would like custom web design or inquire about a project you're interested in, then please use the contact form on our website or any of our other websites, and we would be more than happy to get back to you.